thoughts on Siege mode being both Chaos and Tyranids. Sister Halia just confirmed on Discord that you won't be able to choose between Tyranids or Chaos in Siege. As per the community post, we'll fight both. Thoughts? Well, okay, I will admit, I'm definitely a tad bit worried that those Chaos waves are going to be insanely sweaty. Okay, when I say worried, I'm more worried for our team. Now, I've done a fair amount of Chaos missions. I have soloed Obelisk before on Absolute with the Assault class. However, I did get a little bit lucky there because I did not see a Hellbrute. So, take that for what it is. One day, maybe I'll go back into Obelisk and try to get a full solo run where I see a Hellbrute. But for now, just trying to navigate the amount of range spam Chaos can throw at you can be a little bit difficult. Now, ultimately, as a team, I think that won't be that big of a deal if everyone, learns how to prioritize their targets. Basically, you see a whole bunch of snipers, deal with that. Deal with that as soon as possible. Because holy cow, I can imagine the amount of those guardsmen snipers, the heretics, I forget what to call those guys, but they always spawn in waves of like 5 or 6, and if you don't deal with them, I imagine they're gonna stack up pretty fast. So Chaos can definitely be a little bit difficult, at least from imagination. Now, the fact that we can't choose between Tyranids and Chaos, I think ultimately is fine. I do understand where, people in this game especially have been avoiding Chaos missions, and that has always felt pretty irresponsible in a sense that it's like, you can get better at fighting Chaos, you're just not. you're just not. So now with Siege mode, if you've been avoiding Chaos, you're kind of in a pretty crappy situation here. So I do have a suggestion. Jump into Chaos missions at the lowest difficulty. Play through Fall of Atreus, play through Obelisk, play through even Operation Number 3, Vox Liberatus, play through those, and get used to fighting Chaos. As soon as it becomes too easy, put up the difficulty. And then once you reach around substantial Ruthless difficulty, jump into Reliquary. If you can beat down Reliquary on Ruthless at the very least, I think you're in a good position for Chaos in Siege mode. That said, definitely keep track of what strategies are working and that aren't working, because even after Ruthless Reliquary, and let's say you want to take on Chaos missions in higher difficulties, you're going to have to make sure you're on point with everything on your kit. You need to make sure you know how fast it is to take out a Rubric Marine, how you approach Sorcerers. A lot of times with Sorcerers, for me, I just find a Crack Grenade or Melta. That's the best way to do it for me. And then, yes, Terminators. Learn how to parry Terminators. They normally throw a 3-hit combo that is very parryable. It normally goes swing, hesitate, swing, hesitate, swing. Very base like that for Terminators. Sometimes though, Terminators can throw some different attacks at you that can be a little bit weird. The spinny sword attack is definitely a bit weird. And then also sometimes you'll find Terminators just hitting away from you. So I don't know. Just practice is going to be the way. Tyranid and Chaos Siege missions aren't going to bother you too much. Now, my opinion on not being able to switch, I will admit, we should be able to switch. We should be able to switch between Tyranids and Chaos. But with that said, you definitely need to understand that we can't at the moment. So you have to do everything you can to make sure you're not a detriment to your teammates in Siege mode. So that's why I suggested those training, I guess the Chaos training arc right there. We start in a lower difficulty, do those handful of Chaos missions until you get to Ruthless, until you're ready for Ruthless, and then immediately jump into Reliquary. Reliquary is going to be where you're going to learn how to fight Chaos the best. That's what happened to me when I was struggling on Reliquary on Lethal. I pretty much went from being really bad at fighting Chaos to being really good at it for the most part. Sometimes Chaos can still just throw a lot of range damage your way, so it could be an issue. But okay, let's jump into the comments to see if anybody is let's see if anyone has an issue with this or they're kind of put off by this. Ultimately, I don't think this is that big of a deal, but I do understand how it could have been more convenient for players to, obviously pick a Tyranid siege or a Chaos siege. I think that would have, obviously worked for everyone. But the devs definitely wanted players to be complete players with Siege mode, and I guess they wanted to throw everything the game has at you in Siege mode, which ultimately I think is a good play. I think it's a good play for people who are experienced, but obviously people who have been avoiding Chaos are going to be in a bad situation. So I just suggest right now, jump into some practice and get a little bit better at fighting Chaos, and I think it'll go a long way. As long as there's a loadout container somewhere, I've got no quarrel. So what they are basically pointing out here is that, eventually you're going to want to switch your strategy. If it comes to the fact that you like using Meltas on Tyranids, but you want to bring out something more long range against the Chaos, that's pretty much how you'd want to play that. Because, yeah, sometimes the Melta is a little bit underwhelming against Chaos because of the ranged basically the range positions of Chaos. They could be out of your way, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, it would make sense. Let's say you're Vanguard, you're using the Melta. Hey, it's a Chaos mission. Let's bring out the Oculus. Let's bring out the Instigator. Maybe that can help out a little bit more than the Melta. I guess it really depends. Also, hey, what if you want to switch from your blocking to a fencing weapon? I think that's also a pretty valid concern. I think this is obviously a good suggestion, but it does come to the fact that this feels like it should be auto-included into the game. I really hope this is something that's already in Siege mode, right? I already played against both using the quick play feature, so I am all for fighting against both. And I use the same loadout against both sides anyway, so I'm not too worried that I'll feel worse out if we can't change between waves. All right, interesting. But yeah, that's true. The quick play feature does do a good bit of just letting people, experience, Tyranids and Chaos, obviously because quick play is basically random. And then, obviously, we have been using quick play quite a bit recently because of the extra experience that was introduced for quick play. So, I understand that, maybe not everyone is comfortable with fighting Chaos. However, they definitely tried to nudge us in the direction of, trying out some Chaos operations. Sometimes there's days when you're using quick play where no matter what, you are going to run into like 3 Chaos missions in a row for some reason. I don't know how quick play works, but sometimes I feel like it has a certain idea of what they want to throw at you. And yeah, sometimes when you go to quick play, you'll catch somebody running Fall of Atreus, like 3 different people, and it'll just, they just keep sending you to those missions, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, don't ignore Chaos missions. I personally don't care for Chaos. I would prefer to pick to just fight one or the other. I think Tyranids have a better balance of melee and ranged. I mean, they do. They do. Chaos is practically all ranged. Besides Disc Shamans, I guess. But even them, honestly, Zangor Shamans, they're essentially ranged melee classes because they can just throw their spears at you. They can throw their discs at you. They are technically melee attacks, but they're doing it from far away. It's kind of wild. But it's, yeah, I understand why people don't like Chaos. They can definitely be a bit of a pain to deal with. But sheesh, I am kind of surprised. I will admit, I am a little bit surprised that the devs didn't allow us to pick one or the other. But I guess their intention was, again, to just throw everything at the game at you. And I think ultimately that is the way to go about it. That's why they're bringing in the new Chaos Spawn Matrix enemy. Hopefully it will save the faction a little bit. Sometimes Chaos is a good break from getting my stuff pushed in by Bivors and Zoans. Tyranid extremists are way harder. Oh. Well, wow, okay. I've never seen somebody spell it out like that, but yeah, in a sense, the Bivor is probably the most threatening extremist enemy right now. I mean, sorcerers can be a bit of a pain if you don't deal with them. They can just keep rezzing like Rubric Marines, right? Terminators, if you don't understand their moveset, can be a pain. But even with that, they do have the rocket spam. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Let me know in the comments if you think Biovores are the most threatening extremists. I mean, we've done videos like that before, and essentially it does come down to the fact that they just run away and spam spore mines can be a bigger issue than the Terminator just standing still spamming rockets. So, yeah, I guess the extremists that we see with Tyranids are a bit scarier in general. The only hard part about Chaos right now is the Hell Brute being relentless and the Terminator rockets insta-killing you. Dude, oh yeah, you know what? Now that we're talking about the Terminator rockets, I am not looking forward to Terminator rockets in Siege mode. Can you imagine you being absolutely surrounded? You can't even identify where the rockets are coming from until it's like, you know, until it's the moment for you to go down. Seriously, Terminator rockets are going to feel like they're just going to be so rough to, you know, keep track of, because the Terminators are essentially going to be in a crowd, and it's like, oh, okay, so even if I throw like a grenade over there, I mean, the grenade would work, but if you throw any shots over there, you're probably going to have to go through, a few enemies just to get to the rocket spamming Terminator. I think it's good that we'll be fighting both Tyranids and Chaos. Keep it fresh. Sometimes you just gotta kill some heretics and let the hive mind regroup, especially when Chaos is getting Chaos spawn soon. Fighting them is going to be interesting. What I want to know is, will the Chaos spawn have different variants, or will it just be a single type? And will they be extremists or terminists? Well, we will see about the Chaos spawn. It seems like there's actually a fair amount of people kind of like mentally preparing for the Chaos spawn, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I agree with the keep it fresh. I definitely agree with that. If we just fought Tyranids the entire time, yeah, that could be a bit samey. You know, it's not so much as the grind, you know, becoming boring or anything like that. It's just more due to the fact that you need different challenges in Siege mode to want to return to it. If everyone in the game just had the option just to pick Tyranids, I feel like every time you jump into Siege mode, you would be fighting Tyranids 9 times out of 10. And that would be unfortunate. That would make, I feel like that would make people think that the Siege mode wouldn't have that variety or whatever. But ultimately, I do think Tyranids and Chaos, also the fact that we're going to get new enemies added to both these factions, I think that's going to help, you know, keep it fresh. 100%, I agree with that. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Do you think they should have separated Chaos and Tyranids? Do you think that maybe the amount of people who have been avoiding Chaos, do you think players need to go back and fight Chaos if they have been avoiding it? Yes, they definitely should. But yeah, definitely those players who have been avoiding Chaos are in a pretty weird situation here, so I hope they get to work that out. Definitely practice some Chaos. Just all you really need is like one Chaos operation like every other day or something, just to get a little bit comfortable with what attacks they're sending your way. Ultimately, it's just a lot of range spam. So, yeah. Again, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about this. Thanks for watching.